Welcome back everyone. For those who are new, my name is Rudy, and in today's video we are doing a garden tour for July 2025. Now today's video we're just going to be going through the garden, seeing what's growing. We're also going to be doing some maintenance, and I'm going to be giving some tips and tricks to help out in your garden. So let's jump right in. So right here behind me we have the two 3x3 beds. These beds are mainly dedicated to growing herbs, but you do see here we got two mammoth sunflowers, one in each bed. The neat thing about sunflowers is that they are heliotropic, meaning they follow the sun across the sky, like nature's own solar panels. And then at the base of each of them are different varieties of herbs. We got the holy basil here. It contains medicinal compounds that help reduce stress, anxiety, support blood sugar balance, and fight inflammation. Some lemon mint that we're gonna need to harvest, and some rosemary. And in the other bed we have dill, which is getting some pest pressure and it's kind of looking overspent. But we also got some more holy basil along with some marjoram. So definitely to harvest this mint right now. It is near the flowering stage. Right before lemon mint blooms, it sends up a central stalk and you'll spot little tight bud clusters forming here at the top. This is when the essential oil in the leaves are at their peak, giving you the strongest flavor and aroma. Perfect time to harvest. Well, let's first start off at the main stem. So you can clearly see this would be the main stem. At the intersections or the armpits, you'll see that there's offshoots. So there's two offshoots here, two offshoots here, and then here. And I think that is a good size as well. If we clip that here, these two will grow bushier, and if we keep all of the main branches near and around that same length, I think that'll be a good size. So let's just go ahead and cut there. So I think that's about good enough. It's a pretty good harvest of mint. Now in this 3x3 bed, we're not going to be doing any harvesting. However, we are going to be cutting some of these lower branches on the sunflower. It's going to just allow for better air circulation and allow some of these herbs that are at the base of the sunflower to get more direct sun. Now on these two back 4x6 beds, we got various things growing. We got another mammoth sunflower, and we also have some bell peppers here on the side. Along with some interplanted carnations and some bachelor buttons. And this here is also some hibiscus. Another great plant to have in the garden. Helps with lowering blood sugar and brings in pollinators. And now on the trellis here, we have a luffa. You can harvest the fruit young to eat. However, I'm growing them mainly to be used as bath sponges. Do you know why we call these shower loofahs loofahs? They're actually grown from this plant here, called a loofah gourd. You have to tear the outer skin, remove the seeds, don't forget to plant those next year, and then you have your shower loofah. So if you can, ditch these plastic loofahs and grow your own. If you decide to grow loofahs, they will need lots of direct sun and some type of trellis like this cattle panel to grow on. The vines can grow 20 to 30 feet in a season. So got a various mix of things going on here. Definitely when you're planting your garden, you want to have a lot of diversity to bring in a lot of beneficial pollinators as well as some predatory insects. And now these predatory insects feed on the type of insects like aphids and others that actually end up eating your plants. Now on this bed here, we have two large eggplants here that are now starting to fruit. Now I planted these two here, these being celosia, so I just left it in place. It's a nice addition and it does bring in a lot of pollinators. And in the middle here you can see that it's starting to cascade. This runs all the way up into this trellis here, and this is a banana melon. They're named for their elongated banana-like shape and surprisingly strong banana aroma. This heirloom variety was first cultivated in the US around 1880, and they're the cousin to the cantaloupe and cucumber. Once fully mature, they should turn a bright yellow, and the inside reveals a salmon-colored flesh with a sweet tropical taste. So we got one larger one here. and then a few smaller immature ones. So there are quite a few. This one doesn't look like it pollinated. The end here looks to be brown. Yeah, this will probably shrivel up and fall off. But yeah, for the most part, I just see this one main one here. Yeah, I've been trying to train this into, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 liters, and trying to make it go up. Again, there's a lot of suckers that are growing. If you don't want to cut the whole sucker and say you wanted to keep this fruit here, you can just pop off the growing tip here and allow for that fruit to stay on. That will allow for it to still grow. That's just one thing you can do. Or if like here, this sucker has a very immature fruit, you can just pop off the whole thing. So it kind of all depends. You can, you know, shape and structure the plant the way you want it. This is the way I want it. I wanted to cascade, and on this side is another banana melon, same variety. Wanted to have, you know, 2 of the same plant growing on both ends. Same thing if we back up just a little bit more. This is the same thing that's happening here with the luffa. There's one luffa growing up and the other as well. But let's go back to the banana melon here. So we got a larger one here at the bottom and another one inside the bed. We zoom in, there's one right there kind of hiding. Now this isn't the natural structure of any plant. Any plant will just want to sprawl all over the place, all over the ground, and, you know, grow the way that it just naturally grows. However, when us humans, we come into contact with these plants, we want to grow them, we want to, you know, shape them into something like this. This is a better way to growing it rather than allowing it to sprawl, because when it sprawls, there's a lot of overlap between leaves. A moisture can get in between those leaves and then cause diseases. So this allows for a lot more airflow and preventing various types of diseases. So by using these plastic ties here and kind of shaping it the way I wanted, cutting off the suckers where, you know, I see fit. Like this one here, for example, this is the main leader that's growing all the way up. We have a large sucker that's kind of impeding on this one here. So I'm gonna just come in here and I see that there is already 2 potential fruits. Don't want to have more than 1 fruit on per vine. So I'm just gonna cut right here. Where's my scissors? I should be using my scissors, but I just pop that off right there. That way this allows for this plant to grow better, and, you know, I still have a potential fruit here. Now continue on with the last 4x6 beds. Behind the banana melon here, we have some more eggplant on both sides. Along with some zinnias here. Fun fact, zinnias were among the first flowers grown aboard the International Space Station in 2015, helping NASA study plant growth in zero gravity. Now on this bed here, we have the luffa that's growing up the trellis. We have the 2 mammoth sunflowers. We have some more hibiscus. And below that, taking advantage of their shade, is the toothache plant. Traditionally used to numb tooth pain, hence the name. It's also been used to help with gastric ulcers and even help fight off colds and flus thanks to its antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory properties. You can cut and dry the flowers and leaves and use them as tea, or chew the flower and you'll feel a tingling, numbing sensation, like pop rocks for your gums. And then we also have some basil here that's already gone to flower, definitely to pull that out. And then on this side of the trellis, we have some tomatoes. This one is a great white tomato. Despite the name, it's not stark white, more of a creamy ivory with hints of pale yellow when ripe. It's an indeterminate heirloom, meaning it keeps producing fruit all season and can be saved for seeds. This variety is perfect for folks who prefer a sweeter tomato or have acid sensitivities. It's ideal for fresh eating, but due to its delicate texture, it doesn't hold up well for canning. And lastly, in this bed is a green patty pan squash variety. Now it doesn't look like this plant has any full-grown squash right now, but we have been harvesting from this plant. What I'm gonna do is just clear things up. You can see that there's just way too much plant matter. There's a lot of overlap, a lot of crowdedness in this overall general area. So I just wanna give it a quick little prune. First, I wanna start off with any of the older leaves here at the bottom that are just like not getting any airflow, and there's contact with the ground. That's gonna cause a lot of disease, so just take those off first. And you can see by moving that, how the plant's working. This is the main stem here. There is a lot of offshoots, a lot of suckers, but that probably, you know what, I'm gonna take this one big sucker off. This is a very large piece of the plant. Take that one right off. And then some of these sunflower leaves can be taken off as well, just to open up the plant a little more. And you know what, let's just take off this one. This one's a smaller little sucker here. See how that one looks very similar to this larger one here. So these are just offshoots of the main stem. I mean, you can let it grow wild like that, but again, it's gonna get crowded. So you can tell a male between a female is, males have this stamen here. This actually has the pollen. So this here is a female flower, and you can tell the difference because this one here has the immature fruit that would eventually grow, but this flower would open up similar to this one. Now with a little human intervention or even by pollinators, we can take the pollen from the male flower and pollinate the stigma found within the female flower. Now the female flower shown on the left shows the stigma in the center as opposed to the closed flower I'm holding. But once the pollen comes into contact with the stigma, that will pollinate the fruit and allow for it to grow to maturity. If not pollinated, the small fruit would eventually shrivel up and fall off. Now again, on this side, we have the great white tomatoes. There's 2 on this side as well as 2 on this side. And you can see we got a lot more fruit on this plant here. And all 4 have been trained to one main leader. But behind the tomatoes, we got some more basil that's gone to flower that the pollinators are definitely enjoying. And then we just got some calendula that is kind of overspent already. I did notice this particular variety. I'm not sure if it's for all varieties, but this particular variety tends to get a lot of aphids. I have this kind of scattered about in various parts of my garden. Thought process behind planting the basil next to the tomato is, it is said that planting basil next to tomatoes allows for the tomatoes to have a better taste overall. So that was my thought process in planting the basil next to the tomatoes. Now on this 4x6 bed, we have another zinnia that is really enjoying this area. This zinnia has grown a lot larger than the other interplanted zinnias that I have in the garden. And this is some marigolds, and here is a cucumber. So we have 2 cucumbers. That's one, and this is another. However, this one here is a watermelon, and that watermelon goes all the way down that way and in from that bed. So watermelon kind of taking over the garden here and just growing every which way. Comes all the way down here as well. This one is a China Jade variety of cucumber. See how long and slender it gets. I could harvest it now. It's gonna be a really tender, or I could let it get a little bit thicker. I forgot this variety, but this is more of a pickling variety. And same thing with this. This is another China Jade plant, and the other unknown cucumber. When we look down, we got the watermelon coming from this bed here. This one is a moon and star watermelon. These little dots here, it does kind of look like powdery mildew. However, this is the variety. This is what the watermelon will eventually look like. We don't have any watermelon growing as of right now. We do have some flowers there at the end, but nothing to show as of right now. This whole area was full of vines, so I had to clean things up, and I did cut back the plant. And here we have the corn. There are about 15 to 20 planted corn in here. So here is the male part. So the corn both have male and female organs. This here at the tips are all males, and you can see that they are starting to open, which allows for the pollen to come down, and that will fall onto the female flowers. Now each of these strands tie into one of an immature corn that's in here, or immature kernel of corn that's in here. So that pollen by wind falls down either onto the leaves and then eventually onto the corn. That will allow the corn to be fertilized and eventually grow corn. And this was supposed to be somewhat like a Three Sisters garden. It's an old Native American style of growing, which is called the Three Sisters. The watermelon is supposed to cascade onto the ground, covering the ground and preventing erosion and the soil from drying out. And then the corn stalks are supposed to grow, which will allow for the beans that are planted at the bases here to grow up the stalks and have its own natural trellis. And the beans actually fix nitrogen into the soil, enriching it for all three crops. Together, they create a mini ecosystem that improves soil fertility, reduces pests, and maximizes space. However, I ended up planting the beans a lot later on than I should have, so they are a bit immature. So here's another bean and bean. Clearly see how difference in growth they are. I should have planted the beans when the corn was about 6 to 12 inches tall, but ended up planting them when they were much larger. Then a week after planting beans should have came the watermelon or squash. So this technically isn't a true Three Sisters garden, however it is an homage to the Native American growing style. And we have another patty pan squash here. This one doesn't have any larger fruit, but there are some immature ones there. Further on, we have another melon variety. This one is just an original cantaloupe, I believe. I have the tag here. This is like a musk melon. We got some fruit growing. Same thing applies, kind of like the banana melon. I wanted to grow up this trellis. This one has a few different leaders. I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different leaders, or 7. This one is also growing. There's a lot of different suckers if we could find some. Here's one sucker that's growing from the main stem here, and another larger one. So I'll come in every so often and pop these off. So that's 2 on the plant so far. I do have a lot of even more immature, but yeah, here's a couple. And same as the last side, it's the same plant as a matter of fact, now that I'm looking at it. There's the one plant there, and then it's just growing on both sides of this trellis. So I believe it's just 2 plants. There's the base there, that is one plant, and that is the other plant. So there's only 2 of those melons here, and it's basically all of this that's growing. So melons just in general take up a lot of space, so if you have the room, by all means grow it, but it is best to use this style of trellising or any other type of trellis that you may have just to get things off the ground, because you can imagine if all of this was just on the floor, there would be no way to walk through here. But if we swing back around, this is mainly an echinacea bed. So I did have some beans in the back that ended up puttering out, but we do have a lot of echinacea planted. This is a medicinal plant. It does help a lot when you're sick. So if you're ever feeling a cold, coming on, and just feel that sickness coming on, drinking a tea of some echinacea will definitely help, and I've used it quite a bit. And our dragon fruit, there is a lot of unpollinated fruit because this particular variety of Dragon fruit is not self-pollinating. It basically means that I would need the pollen of another dragon fruit to be able to pollinate these flowers here. If not, they just go unpollinated and they end up just falling off just like this here. So this would be a dragon fruit that grows eventually, but since it's not pollinated, it just falls off. And then just some pots of aloe here, sage, some broadleaf sage, and some lavender. And then we got the jasmine that's been here for, I want to say like 2 to 3 years. I think 3 to 4, honestly. It likes this area, has a lot of nice green growth at the top, more brownish at the bottom. It's kind of hard, like you're supposed to prune back the jasmine, but it's just very hard to find, you know, the perfect spot and location because it does vine out a lot. So it's very hard to kind of distinguish between where the old vine starts and the new vine ends, or vice versa. I kind of just let it be and it tends to just grow out. So that's the jasmine. If we swing around in between the melons here, we have the grapes on this side and this bed. We got a cucumber that's kind of, it doesn't like the spot. This spot does get a lot of shade because of the grapes. When I first planted it, the growth on the grapes were not a lot, so there was a lot more sun coming in. Since the grapes have grown in, it has shaded this area out, and honestly this cucumber isn't doing that well. It is kind of stretching out and getting the light over there. But for the most part, I harvested maybe 1 or 2 cucumbers from this plant. Here's a pot of some overwintered gladiolus, I believe. I don't even know. It's just kind of growing there. Got a rosemary little plot here, along with the lemon tree. We do have a lot of lemons, but for some reason they are just not ripening. Not sure what's happening here. Definitely a lot of fruit, it's just staying green. Here we got 3 calendulas. They're definitely spent. I gotta pull these out. Again, these are the same variety that was holding on to a lot of those aphids. You could see them kind of flying around. So yeah, we got calendula. We got 2 tomatoes growing on this side along with the same variety on this side. These are big rainbow tomatoes, so they're a different variety than before. Same thing with these. These are big rainbow. And we also got some lemon balm that I cut back aggressively, and now it is coming back with a vengeance. Now here we have some interplanted straw flower, 1 at each corner of this bed here, and along with 2 zucchinis here. This is a golden zucchini variety. And if we swing to the left here, we got another zucchini variety, a long white variety. I do see some very early stages, some powdery mildew. Need to come in here and give it a trim for both these zucchinis here. You can see it's just a lot of plant matter. Let's clean things up. And then here we have the Indian peace pipe. This does bring in a lot of pollinators as well. The hummingbirds really like this plant. The leaves here are actually really sticky, so a lot of the flying insects land onto them and they basically get stuck on them. So this is a very good like insect trap. So if you want to plant, let's say your squash next to this type of plant or any other plant, it will catch a lot of the insects that you don't want in your plants, and they eventually die on this plant, since they, again, it's just acts as like almost like a natural sticky trap. I really enjoy this plant a lot. The seeds themselves are really hard to germinate. They are very tiny, but once you got one plant established, they will come back every year. I did end up planting these 2 here, and they will definitely self-seed in this bed. And then again, another squash. This location, just in general, is not a good spot for the squash, since again, we have the grapes that completely shade out this area for most of the day. Now the leaves do kind of stretch out and catch some sun, but not enough for it to thrive. We got this bed here in the back that had a lot of carnations. Had different variety. There was some yellow and then some red variety carnations. Starting to putter out now. A lot of dead flowers. And then some volunteer, more Indian peace pipes here. And then I got a little pot herb bed here. Just some rosemary, some sage, and some more sage that's kind of dead. So this is my dedicated little pot section. I do plan to extend out the seating area further that way and eventually put in like a water feature here in the corner. But for now, it's gonna house all of my pots. Now, this part of the garden is the only part that is not on irrigation. All the other beds that we just previously saw are on full irrigation. But yeah, just different variety of things here. This is a part of the lemon tree. I propagated that from the main lemon tree that's out in the back behind the corn. Some sage, rosemary. This one here I bought off the nursery is a geranium. This is supposed to keep the mosquitoes away, but it's starting to die back. It does prefer cooler weather. We got some cherry tomatoes here. You can see that they're definitely producing. Forgot what variety this is. I have the tag in there somewhere, but it's interplanted with some marigolds. And we have an apple tree here, definitely to get in the ground soon. This is a gala apple. And then just a small pot of some lavender with some cactuses here in these tinier pots. And again, some more cherry tomatoes interplanted with some marigolds. This is a cactus flower. The flowers are dying out, but let's come out and deadhead some of these. And then another hibiscus in a pot. Same variety as the two that were both in these two beds. Another toothache plant. Again, cherry tomatoes, marigolds. And then a different variety of tomato. This is Big Rainbow. And guys, that is it for the garden tour. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. It is starting to get really hot, so I'm about to go inside and cool off. Now, if you have any questions, you can always leave a comment down below and I'll definitely get to answering. And if you want to check out any more of my content, you can click on any of the thumbnails to the side of me. This is Rudy with Guevara Garden signing off and letting you know you won't get a harvest if you don't sow seeds.